No. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Tonight is the March 11, 2021 work session and a quick voting meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for joining us. Right before we start our work session, I'd like to I have one order of business, one resolution that for time-wise, we had to do this. Do I have a motion to open the voting meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Voting meeting now open. Only resolution tonight is declaring intent for lead agency for Fishkill Plains, Revere Park, Worley Homes Water District interconnections and system improvements. The town of East Fishkill has determined that Fishkill Plains, Revere Park, Worley Home Districts are in need for a new water source. The town of East Fishkill studies several alternates for providing a reliable water source to the water districts and determined that the proposed multi-district interconnection and other improvements best meets water source needs. And the project will include interconnection between Hopewell Hamlet Water District and Fishkill Plains Water District, interconnection between Brettview Water District and Revere Park Water District, and interconnection between Brettview Water District and Worley Water District. The project will include system improvements to improve water quality and water flow. Improvements will include metering, water pipe replacement, flushing hydrants, and to facilitate the proposed project, town is seeking funding through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. And to further facilitate the proposed project, town is seeking grant through the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. And the full environmental assessment form, part one, has been filed with the town board as required by law to initiate the mandatory environmental review prescribed by the State Environmental Review Act, SECRA. This resolution will initiate the secret process for the action contemplated by the town to set forth in detail below. So this has been a long time coming. We have been studying several different water districts to connect each other for better water quality. So can I just have our engineer just give us a brief overview of this resolution, please?
Well, first I'll speak about the project. Just to reiterate what you said, Mr. Supervisor, we are extending water service from the Hopewell Hamlet to Fishkill Plains. About a year ago, we had studied various routes of how to best supply water to Worley and to Revere Park. And as part of that, with all the moving parts we also have some issues occasionally at Fishkill Plains, and we've experienced those as well. So ultimately, the decision was made to take the route along 376, connect directly to Fishkill Plains at Secor Lane. From there, we more or less piggyback to Brettview, which then piggybacks to Revere Park at one location point, and it also piggybacks to Worley Homes at another connection point. So in addition to providing a clean water source for all these districts, we also have a redundant connection to the county water line at Hopewell Glen. So in the event even our well system has an issue, we still have backup from Fishkill Plains. From the county at Hopewell Glen. So this is a great project, multiple sources of water in case we have any issues to supply all these districts. With that said, we want to make sure we dot the I's, cross the T's. We are going to be applying for the WIA 2 grant to help offset the cost for the residents. Currently, we have a deferred interest rate, or actually a reduced interest rate currently. But in addition to that, we also want to get some grant funds. So we're just trying to tidy up the process and just make sure we dot all the I's and cross all the T's for the loan requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is to declare lead agency. Do I have a motion to declare lead agency for the Fishkill Plains, Revere Park, Worley Homes Water District for the interconnection systems improvements?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And that's it. We just had that quick resolution. Do I have a motion to close the voting meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Voting meeting closed. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Night.
So now I'll open up our workshop tonight. Do I have a motion to open the work session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Work session is now open. So tonight, we only have one item on our agenda, and that is to discuss issues going on with our internet and cable provider. For the past several years, East Fishkill, some residents have had some issues going on with Optimum or Altice. Tonight, luckily, we have some members from Altice joining us right on Zoom. Thank you very much. I'll say your names if you could just say hello. The Manager for Government Affairs, Samantha Pardell Jerez.
Yes, hello.
How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Ed Russo, he is the Vice President of Field Operations.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. John Dulligan, he's the Director of Government Affairs.
Hello, everybody.
John, how are you? And Bill Lee, he's also Vice President of Field Operations.
Bill Lee is not here tonight. He's sick today and he was not able to join us, unfortunately.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John. So I appreciate all of you joining us by Zoom. For any residents that have any concerns, and they can answer questions. So like I said, there are issues going on. A lot of residents have some trouble because they feel that the service isn't as fast as they like it. They don't like that there's no competition in town. As most people know, Optimum or Altice supplies roughly 90% of all the homes in East Fishkill. Since COVID and the skyrocketing demand of internet services and people working from home, children schooling from home, you know, I bet it's very taxing on the system. So tonight, our panelists joining us will describe and explain that to us. But also, some of the other complaints they have is the rates. And I understand that rates are the rates, business is business, but a lot of people say because there isn't a different choice that they're kind of locked in. There's a monopoly. I have written several letters. I wrote a letter to the Public Service Commission, which they have not responded. I asked them, I gave them a notice of tonight's meeting. I let them know what some of the issues were with our residents. That was the executive deputy, Mr. Congdon. I sent him a letter. He has yet to respond, and it would have been nice, even just a response that he got my letter. But he did not. We did also reach out to several other companies in the, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman, would you like
Yes.
to, before we start?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, for those who do not know, I am employed by Verizon, and it would be unethical for me to take part in this discussion. So as I've done in the past, I will recuse myself from this discussion and presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. You too. So as I'm continuing, I sent out several letters to Verizon, Frontier Communications, Spectrum, Charter, Time Warner, that's all one company, letting them know that we have an open franchise agreement and that some of the residents are looking for different choices of providers and wanting them to come to our meeting tonight to speak to our residents directly if they are willing to come to East Fishkill to do business. Now, most of them have said the same exact thing. Number one, none of them said that they will attend. Number two, most of them, especially Verizon, made it very clear that they will not be building out of their copper footprint. And they have a traditional footprint of the New York Telephone Company that used to be here in East Fishkill. And he went on also to describe how in 2005-ish, they came to Dutchess County and all the Mayors and Supervisors Association at that time to ask them to lift different fees in order for them to get in. At that time, the Mayors and Supervisors Association and Dutchess County Legislature did not felt that what they had was adequate. So they did not expand their footprint. And we are at the point where until there's other improvements in technology, I don't know what the situation is. That's what we're here to discuss tonight. But what I want to make very clear to all the residents and some members of the community stipulate that East Fishkill, the government keeps other competitors out. That is just simply not true. We have a franchise agreement. It's an open franchise agreement that allows other companies to come and do business here, just like Optimum and Altice has been doing. Other companies, if they want to spend the infrastructure dollars that Optimum has, they're more than willing to do that. Would the town attorney expand a little bit on the franchise agreement for us?
Sure, certainly, Mr. Supervisor. What happens is when a company wishes to provide a cable service in the town, they have to come to the town to ask for a franchise agreement. What the franchise agreement basically has evolved into these days is an agreement to give permission for infrastructure to be built within the town's right-of-way and easement areas. The agreement is a non-exclusive franchise. In other words, we can grant multiple franchises for this service. The only condition is they all have to be a level playing field. They all have to require the same thing. Originally, when, if you can go for those of us who might remember, back in the 80s and 90s, when cable was new and coming to the town, what happened is the telephone companies were not involved. So neither Verizon or Frontier were involved in bringing cable to the community. So at that time, the cable company came to the town board. And back at the beginning, the franchise agreement covered the cost of the service, the program content, and it also, the other big factor was a build out requirement. So the company had to show a schedule that they would be expanding the availability of cable as the town grew. So the Hopewell Hamlet was first and it grew. Now, over the decades, things have changed. The federal government through Congress and the Federal Communications Commission prohibits us from playing any role in content or pricing. That's all free market and available unregulated by the town or the state. The state used to have a separate cable television committee, which approved and was involved in approving all these agreements. That commission has now been merged in with the Public Service Commission, and their main function is to review the technical aspects of the service to make sure it meets certain levels of technical acceptance by the state. And then our agreement is merely an agreement to allow their infrastructure to be placed within our rights of way, as I said, and governs that issue at this time. So it provides for the insurance, indemnification. It's non-exclusive. So if Verizon or any other carrier came to the town and sought to establish the service, the town board could freely grant them another franchise, and it would not be in violation of the current franchise. And as you indicated, Supervisor, we are primarily a service now. It used to be Sylvan Lake Telephone. Now it's Frontier Communications, which is a separate local telephone service separate from Verizon, which only services about 10% of the town.
Thank you, Attorney. Appreciate the background. And just another comment before I have the public speak or town board members first. We do discuss this with Mayors and Supervisors Association now, and there are several towns that in the county that also are in the same situation as East Fishkill, where most 90 to 100% of their town or village or city is primarily one company, one provider, Optimum and Altice. So they have the same situations. I did send an invitation to the Mayors and Supervisors Association if they wanted to attend tonight. I don't know if there are, I believe there's maybe several other supervisors from towns on the call, and I encourage them to speak and give their comments or questions to our discussion tonight. So with that, do any town board members have any comments or questions, or should we get started with the public?
Well, I mean, we had this discussion before. I remember when we signed a contract agreement with the company that is currently in servicing our town, that a few of us had raised some issues at that time. The cost of the service was one, and the way they were conducting their services for their clients was another one. I mean, I use the service and it's not a good service. Many times programs are interrupted. It's hard to get in touch with the company. The complaints are that they really don't respond, and it takes sometimes us taking some customers up to 2 weeks to have some services restored. This happened even in the last snowstorm that we had not too long ago. I mean, in this day and age where everybody depends on the services of this company, we cannot allow, and really it's becoming a need for everybody in the community. So it's not a luxury anymore. I believe a lot of people have switched their services. And the only thing that these companies right now do diligently is increase the price of their service for the customers that they service in our community. And many times, because there is no competitions, there is no other choice. So we're at their mercy, and the town board has taken the initiative. We've received a lot of complaints. And we welcome anybody that wants to do business in our community, open arms. I mean, this is right now really a need that the town of East Fishkill is really expressing to the servicing companies.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments?
I'd like to start with, it's nice to put a face to the name, John. I appreciate all of your communications over the past 6 months. Just to reiterate what the supervisor said, even some of the points that Councilman Marinero made, a lot of residents are frustrated. We all know that they're stuck with one service provider, and there's really not much we can do about that at this point in time. I understand that the system's being used more than its max design capacity, with kids being homeschooled at the moment, teachers, parents working from home. So the system's stressed, to say the least. But one thing that I really think would go a long way in the town, especially with your company, is if you can somehow improve the level of customer service. I mean, so many times we get phone calls with our residents trying to reach out just for simple problems to be fixed, and they just can't get in touch with customer service. And when they do, they get hung up on. When they don't like the answer, they try to escalate the call. It somehow just gets hung up or disconnected, and no one ever reaches out back to them. And it just gets frustrating. People don't have time to sit on the phone all day just waiting to solve a simple issue. So just something like that would go a long way in our community. But like I said, thank you for what you've been doing so far to kind of help remedy these issues, but we still have a lot of work to do going forward.
Thank you, Councilman. At this time, I'll entertain any members of the public in the voting meeting room here to come up and speak first, and we'll go to our participants on Zoom. Anybody in the public wish to speak about the optimum situation?
Good evening. Thank you, council folk. Do I have to say my name? Am I supposed to? I don't know the rules. Are there rules and regulations to this? This is my first time here in a long time. But you guys all look great. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Dutcher. I've been an Optimum customer since 2011 when I moved into my current residence. And in the beginning, it was all status quo and great. I travel for a living. So at the time I bought into the triple play package, right? Phone, internet, cable, and everything was great. I use the DVR a lot since I can't watch TV all that often. And when I would come back, there would be glitches on the recordings and things like that. And I said to myself, technology, not 100%. All right, deal, great. Well, it got to a point where it became too much. So I made a phone call and I spoke to a representative and they said, well, how many times have you called before? I said, this is the first call because I understand technology doesn't work well. So I figured this was my call. Well, let's look at the other areas around you. No problems. Okay. But I still have an issue on my DVR and they continue to tell me that I don't have any problems. And, you know, I think like Councilman Bepan said, customer service is definitely lacking. I truly believe that it probably says on each customer service representative's computer screen that there is no competition because anytime anything happens, they are not willing to do anything. But if I don't pay my bill, you'll turn off my service instantly. Again, I don't have a problem. I get it's expensive, but if the service and the customer service was good, I wouldn't mind paying for what it is. Most recently, I upgraded my internet, like I'm sure everyone did. I went from 200 to 400, and I was informed that the current equipment that I have at my house is perfectly fine. So it obviously was lagging one day, so I called, couldn't get through because of, you know, obviously the pandemic. Long story short, I finally got through to them and somebody told me that my equipment was not up to date. So I'd been billed for 2 months on equipment that was not adequate for what they sold me. No problem there. They told me I could switch it in and I said, okay. And then I called and they said, no, it's fine equipment. So I couldn't get the right answer from any of them. And I had to work twice as hard to try to get the money back for the 6 months that I paid for 400 internet when I was only receiving 200. I called, I showed them internet services, the rates up and down of what I was getting in and what I was giving out, and nothing. And still to this point, I am still paying for a service that I'm not being provided with. And it is easier for me to just leave it alone and less stressful than to call and try to wait on hold for the 2 hours or whatever it is. So, you know, you talk to other businesses right now and they appreciate the person paying the money, right? And Optimum just, in my opinion, does not care about that. So I think hands down, customer service is a huge thing that needs to be worked on there. Easement of getting somebody on the phone. I would much rather talk to somebody on the phone than an automated service. And again, like Councilman Bepan said from other people in the area, when the call gets dropped, you guys provide me with my phone. Call me back. That's my biggest problem with them, right? Number one, that my cell phone number is the one that's on the file, but I also have a phone provided by Optimum and no one ever calls back if the call is dropped. So it's super frustrating. I get it, it's technology, but it shouldn't depend on the amount of times that I call and annoy Optimum for them to believe that my service is having an issue. And then my favorite thing that they say is that if it's not us, we're gonna bill you when we come out, which is also maybe not a great thing to say. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dutcher. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Okay, with that, Mr. Cunningham, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to join our meeting?
So if you'd like to speak, please hit the raise your hand function. Okay, so the first one is only goes by Zoom user. So I'll promote a Zoom user now to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Christine. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Oh, something's not working because it's internet provided. It looks like I'm muted.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it's very unfortunate, first off, to see that no other internet providers decided to appear. The second issue is, I very much appreciated that other gentleman in his conversation. I've had constant issues from the start. Every technician that has come here in the middle of the pandemic is not wearing appropriate PPE. Whenever I call customer service, they have a different language. There's a language barrier. They read from a script. They don't listen to your issue. They automatically send out a technician. Every technician that has come here has said ever since Altice has bought them out that they are miserable. They don't care. We've had long conversations. When I go to their website and I type in anybody else's address that has the FiOS or any other option, the price from Optimum or Altice is $40 cheaper from jump, just because there's competition in the area. So now I'm stuck with a company that I can't communicate with, technicians that come here ill-equipped and unhappy and disgruntled. The price is exorbitant. I run my own small company and I am totally dependent on telemedicine. So for 2 years, I have been basically working off of a cell phone. So I would really like to know what Altice has to say about all of this.
Would one of the representatives?
Sure, yeah, if I could, yeah, this is John Dellahan. Thank you everyone for allowing us to participate today. I think just before I address that customer resident, I would just like to, Kristen, I would just like to say, if we could have somehow, I'm trying to keep log as well, but if there are, like Ryan, the last speaker, if we could somehow keep track of their name and address in some fashion, or give my email address and Samantha's, we're happy to provide that, so customers who have those kind of frustrating situations have been ongoing, they can reach out to us directly and we can work to resolve. Of course, that does not address the overarching issue of customer service, which is something the customer has, has had to deal with a lot of frustration over the last year specifically. We've invested a lot of money to try and shore that up with resources, adding more staff, more technology. Not a small dollar amount has gone to that. It was the end of last year, so we still have some time for that to sort of work itself out and see the results and the fruits of that. So that's the first point I want to make, is just we'll collect the information, we'll give our email address. We are working on customer service points. I could go address each individual cost is something folks have brought up. Pricing in East Fishkill is the same as it is in the Bronx for our territory. So it's not a matter of no competition. The prices do not change by municipality. They are uniform. So the competition in the most competitive market in the country is the same prices you're getting in East Fishkill. Now, that doesn't mean you're happy with them. I'm just giving you some context that that's the marketplace, right? And I'll pause there and say, on the technician side, I have seen a big uptake in sort of response rates and improvement on that front over the last couple of months myself, because I receive a lot of customer complaints. As you might imagine, if they go to municipalities, they are frustrated, they come to me. I help manage those. I work closely with Ed Russo, who's on this call, and Ed has more recently been sort of managing your area, East Fishkill and the surrounding areas. He has a much bigger territory than that, but he is in charge of that. And I've seen, since Ed has come aboard, great improvements as well. I'll kind of pause there and listen to any reactions and see if I can address any more questions.
Well, I will tell you first off, that is inaccurate. My father lives in Westchester and he has 3 internet options. He currently has FiOS. And when I go to Optimum and I put in my address as if I were a new customer, I get a price of almost $70. And then I put in my father's address in Westchester and his price is $45. Same website, same interaction, 2 vastly different prices for the exact same service. That's number one, which is completely accurate.
Okay, so there's a lot of nuance that goes behind pricing, right? It may seem that way in the front that the website tells you one price, but I'm telling you that I know we do a lot of market research and we're very diligent to make sure we are not overpriced to a competitor like Fios, because that really would do us no good, right? Because then we would obviously lose customers and on price alone. So I know we're very diligent about that. There's a team and a lot of effort that goes into market management and making sure prices are aligned across the board with our competition.
Okay, well, we'll have coffee and I'll pull up the website and then you can explain it to me personally. I'll be happy to entertain that. The other issue is, for me personally, because I am trying to run my company and I am dependent on telemedicine, I have your service legitimately 10 minutes every hour for the last year. I have resorted to other resources and I'm buying jetpacks, and that's how I'm going to survive. You have sent technicians here multiple times. Every time they come to the door, they read the notes and they say it's not us because it's not inside. It took them 6 months to send somebody out to the box. And now there are wires and my neighbors are complaining to me because they are supposed to be under the ground and they're across everybody's lawn. So I know that that has to be part of what little service I'm getting from you. And it's been almost 7 months and there has been zero correction. And the field team came out and basically just left the wires exposed and said, good luck with that.
Well, if I could be of assistance and if you give your name and contact information, meaning your address, name and phone number somehow, or I'll give you my email if it's easier that way. I know I spoke to the town before this meeting and asked that, my email address is given out in Samantha so we can rectify that for you, because obviously that's not a situation we want you to have to deal with. And we can, look at it from, I'll bring it to myself, you bring it to me and I'll bring it to Ed and his team and we'll have it resolved. So I really apologize for all that disruption.
Yes, and we haven't seen a single dollar credit for service that you are absolutely not providing. And we can't get through to anybody about any of this. And when my husband last called, your team said, when this is all rectified, we'll worry about the credits. So in the meantime, you've gotten clearly over thousands of dollars for service that you are clearly not providing.
And that's another part that we will correct. I will have my care team reach out to you directly so you don't have to contact us, and they will work on a resolution.
I will be happy to take down all email addresses, all direct phone numbers, because I have about 15 different phone numbers in my phone for Optimum.
Well, I can give you my email address now if you'd like, and then the town can sort of circulate it later if that's the route they choose to take.
I've got a pen. I'm ready to
Okay.
take it.
It's John, John Dullahan, D as in David, Ullaghan,
Sorry, DULL.
AGHAN
Gotcha.
at AlticeUSA.com.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
So the town will provide all the email addresses and contact information from our panelists from Altice. I'll provide them on our town website for anybody wishing to contact them.
That would be excellent.
Thank you.
And we do have several people who dialed in or on Zoom. So let's go to another a resident.
Sure. So the next person I'll allow to speak is Anna Cover.
Let's go over.
Okay, Ms. Cover, you should be able to speak.
This is exactly what happens to me. When I am trying to teach, I am trying to work, I get kicked off. We have every damn device in this house turned off when I'm online trying to work, so I don't get kicked off. I have gotten kicked off more times than I can count when I'm trying to teach. I was so desperate one day because I knew I had to do observations. My husband had to go out and get me a hotspot from somebody else so that I could work without fear of getting kicked off. paying $90 a month to get kicked off and buy a hotspot from another company. Now let's talk TV. I am paying a TV broadcast fee of $9.99. What is that for? I am paying a regional sports network fee for $10.47. I'm not interested in regional sports. There is no local news. Why am I paying these fees for something I don't use? Second, let's talk about also the cost of your boxes. $10 a month to use your boxes for the TVs. There are no other boxes compatible on the market because whatever you do, and my son has brought several boxes in for me to try, and he's in technology. The way you've scrambled your stuff, we can't bring in, purchase our own boxes. I have a handicapped son. Your technician's comment to me was, we'll let him dial Optimum since you have internet on his device. He can't. He can't. So that's just, you're not listening to people. $10 a month for that per box, $10 a month for my modem, another $20 plus for things I don't use, and $90 for internet when my husband has to go out and purchase me a hotspot so I can do my job. There's a problem with your service.
So again, I don't want to interrupt, but I will say that we will also take your information down and have it looked at and addressed. We can speak about the costs. I mean, I can have someone look at your fees, but I know generally speaking, some of those fees are, I'll take the regional sports fee, for example. That is something that we charge and all other cable providers charge to absorb the cost of the rising cost.
Nope, my son-in-law isn't paying it.
No, everyone pays it actually.
He pays it in another town. He's not paying it. He's in another town. He's not paying it.
Well, all of our, is he an Optimum customer? Or are you saying?
No, he's not an Optimum customer. He's not stuck paying an extra $20+ per month for fees.
Okay, well, my understanding is that is something that the industry charges, and the reason for that is because of the rising costs in sports programming. Now, I will say
I don't
that,
want sports programming. Get rid of it for me. I don't need it on my internet or on my TV.
well, unfortunately, it's on a lot of channels. It's not just your ESPN or something of that nature. It's on CBS. It's on, now sports is the major driver that is covered on almost every.
So it's just another
channel.
excuse for you to get more money out of us.
Well, what it is we're actually lobbying with the FCC to try and get the programmers that we have to pay to provide the content on the TV to lower their costs, because their costs keep rising, although eyeballs on the screens are dropping from a video perspective. And we've asked the FCC to come in and sort of play as an arbitrator role to negotiate not just us, but all of the cable companies, because costs are rising at an exponential rate from the sports networks, and we're trying to put a stop to it. Now, I will say, for what it's worth, that in the coming months, we are giving a credit on that fee because of the pandemic, there was no live sports programming, and we went after the programmers, and the sports programmers, and they are going to help us in that regard. So there will be a credit coming on that in the next couple of months to subscribers for that fee specifically. But aside from that, I will, if you could have my email address, if you email me your specific information, we will have someone come out and I'll make sure that we have someone contact you directly and explain the rest of those fees on your bill.
Well, again, I object to this $10 per box when you can't go out and commercially purchase and own your own box because of whatever quirks within your system. You've hamstrung us. I have to restrict my son or carry the box from room to room to room. There's a problem with that. And there's a problem that my husband had to go out and get me a hotspot to do my job when I am paying you $90 a month.
I agree, and I think we'll work to resolve that. I'll have some folks come out there and we'll address it and look at what the issue lies. If it's inside the home, we'll have a tech visit and we'll have someone who can go and actually.
It's not in my home, it's your service. Every other teacher involved is saying this. I have other friends who've taught. We've all had to go out and buy hotspots at one point because your service doesn't work.
Okay, and the last point I'll make is that the network runs, there's inside and outside network components. So now, as we all know, we have a lot of devices that run off the internet. It's not just the fact that the service comes to the house and, it should be always be up and active. There's so many things on that. I mean, it should be active, but it's always so many things on that device. There's a lot of different competing devices trying for the internet. So I'm just saying there could be things within the home that are complicating the service. And I'm just making that point. I'm not saying that's your situation because we have to get there to analyze it, but
Right.
that is a possibility.
My son is heavily into technology and fairly high up. And my husband works in technology. When I am teaching, we literally go and unplug and turn off everything so that I can get through my day without stress. Literally turn everything off. That means turning off every nook, every tablet, everything in the house gets turned off that could potentially be on the internet. And I still get bumped off. And during the day, from 8 to about 4 o'clock is the worst. And then again in the evening from roughly 6 to 8.
Ms. Cova, this is Eddie Russo. I'm listening to some of the issues that you're saying, and I really want the option to get my team out there to see what's going on. But a lot of what you're explaining, and I'm only saying from what I'm hearing from you, when John says there's inside and outside network, our network on a whole for the outside is running optimal at 98%. Okay, we monitor that, and we can see that. Now, the inside of your network would be your router, our router.
Which I purchased from you.
That's what I was going to say. Either your router or the router that we give you. Okay, and when you say you have to turn some piece of equipment off, we support over 20 devices on that router. So it does sound to me that there is an equipment problem or something that we need to fix on the inside. And if you can give us the option, I would have my top technicians that I do have in the area, because I dedicate some of the best technicians we have just to the Fishkill area to help, with these issues. And you give me a chance to fix your network, I'm going to tell you we're going to get that work. We'll get all your devices working, because you should not have the issues that you're talking about. And I think that we can do that if we get the option to come into your home to fix that.
You do realize that this is not Fishkill. This is the town of East Fishkill.
Yes, I do.
Okay. The other issue is cost. What's it going to cost me to bring your technicians in? $300, $400, $500, $1,000? I've heard horror stories from people who've had your technicians in.
No,
and
you're
the
not.
cost of your technicians is outrageous.
No, you're not going to get charged for our technicians coming in there. Service visits are $80, but we don't charge customers, okay, for things that are our fault. Our equipment, wiring, okay, outside plant issues. We don't charge for that. And I can tell you that I will send my technicians there. You won't be charged, and we will get the service working to your satisfaction.
All right, because this is ridiculous. And like I said, my other issue is purchasing these boxes that you guys have basically held us hostage to. Think about this. 3 boxes, $33 a month you are holding me hostage to. I can't go out and purchase a commercial one because of the limitations that you put on it. It's ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And again, I don't want to hear your nonsense about put your device on the internet. I have a handicapped son. Explain to me how I'm going to do that with him. Unless you want to come in and do hand over hand teaching with him, it'll probably take you roughly 50 to 100 hours to get him onto one device.
So I'm going to say that if the technicians that get you on, he's probably speaking about like smart TVs or something like that. And that's probably, a way to save on boxes. But to the box point, the boxes that we have work with our system and our network. That's why you have the box you have. The other option is if you had a smart TV or Amazon Prime stick, Okay?
No, I don't use Amazon at all. I don't believe in Amazon.
Okay, I understand. But I'm
And I don't have a Prime Stick. I don't have a Roku. I don't purchase any of the extra stuff. I've tried to be faithful to Optimum, and I'm getting more and more disgusted.
I understand. I understand. I'm just trying to give you the options that are out there that we
I
don't.
understand, but I also think that you guys have a ripoff in this $10, $11 a month fee. You are ripping people off. $11 a month is ridiculous.
But Mrs. Cover, I will provide you with their email information, and I will also provide them with your information.
Which I'm sure you have from water, but you knew I'd be back.
Good to hear from you, Mrs. Cover.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham, who's next?
Next speaker is Deborah Hall.
Unmute. Hello. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Ms. Hall.
Can you lower? Hi. I've had issues. I've literally spent 2 hours on the phone waiting for somebody to pick up to talk to me, listening to your obnoxious the videos, or not the videos, to hear all the things that you guys have that you want us to buy and this and that. And then when somebody answers, I get like a different answer than from the day before when nothing got settled. I get different answers all the time. It's to the point where now I have to set up my computer so that I could tape the conversation, because and I let them know that I'm taping it also. It's very frustrating. There's a lot of times intermittent problems that I get told, well, I don't see an issue. Well, we're not having an issue on this side. And, I've had to videotape the issue on TV in order to prove that I'm having a problem. And a lot of times I can't understand the people on the phone. It's just very frustrating. A lot of times things don't get fixed, and I have to go to the Better Business Bureau, because otherwise nothing gets fixed. And that's the only way I can get something fixed with you guys. I don't know what the answer is. I will also go to the store in Wappingers, and all they're good for is taking money and taking your equipment and maybe giving you a newer one. But the guy told me that this would fix my problem. I took the stuff home. It wouldn't work. I had to wait 4 days for somebody to come, and the guy couldn't get it to work. And then I had to wait another 5 days for it to get fixed over the phone. And something that should have been, easy to do, according to the person in the Wappinger store, took me 10 days to get fixed. And I didn't have the phone, and I didn't have the internet all that time. And it shouldn't be like that. Like I said, I don't know what the answer is.
Can I ask, are you still having intermittent issues? Are you still having issues with all three services?
No, because like I said, I took a video of the problem. It was pixeling. And it happens when there's bad rain, and then it will, sometimes it just won't get better.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
pixelating, and but it only happens sometimes. But when it does happen, it'll happen through an entire program, an entire show. And then it fixes itself, and then it gets bad again. So it's hard to get it. Like I said, I had to videotape it, and you guys always something out on the pole that needs to be fixed, but yet I need to stay home and wait for somebody to come, and they don't even knock on the door. They go to the pole and they leave, and I'm home waiting for somebody to come, and they don't even bother knocking on the door and saying that they were there. So then I have to make another appointment because it's not fixed. Whatever it is that they thought it was, or whatever it is that they didn't fix it. And then, I mean, these are things that have happened, and it shouldn't be like that.
I agree, and I apologize for that, your frustration. I think we will take your information. If you can email us, we have your name, and we'll make sure, I'll work with Ed, and we'll make sure, Eddie, and we'll make sure that we have a technician go out there and look at the problem, the pixelation, and resolve it. And I apologize again for the runaround you had to endure.
Well, like I said, the only way that basically the only way I can get something fixed after wasting 10 hours on the phone 4 different times trying to talk to somebody is Better Business Bureau. Otherwise, you guys don't care, or it seems like you don't care.
And I will say now, for the meantime, you have my information and Samantha, and we are, as I said a little while ago, and this isn't going to solve for today, but we have made investments and the executives have heard the outcry of customer service, and I know we're making strides in that. It's not going to happen overnight, but because there's a lot of ground to make up, but we are focused on that. And in the meantime, you have our contact information, and we'll make sure this gets resolved.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we do have several other residents wanting to speak. So if I could ask them to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes so everybody would get a chance to speak. Mr. Cunningham, who's next?
The next person is Mike Wright.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I'll try to be quick. Thank you, everybody, for hosting, and 2, for the Altice representatives for coming and kind of being our customer service punching bag. I know that's not an easy task, especially after hours. So thank you. My main comment is actually that I see kind of a structural problem with how the service is even offered. In the past, I've had what's called symmetric internet service, where the upload speed is the same as the download speed. And considering that we're all on a video call right now, and I'm on video calls basically all day for work, and my kids are on video calls for school, like, we need symmetric up and down, and we don't have that through Optimum. The closest I can get to it on a residential plan is, I think, 35 megabits up and 200 down. And if I want to get even close to symmetric, I have to go with a commercial plan to get 100 up, and that's still not even close. So that's a big problem for me. And 2 kids on video calls, and my wife working and I working, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I appreciate the kind of direct response and giving out your email address to each individual consumer who's had an issue, but escalation to what I assume is upper management in a town board meeting is the completely wrong way to run customer service, to be honest. Like, I appreciate that you're offering this kind of one-to-one response, but like, there's clearly a structural issue with how customer service operates, that there's so many people that they feel their only choice is to escalate in this kind of a forum. So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Hey, can I just make a brief comment on that? Thank you for those comments. I would just like to say for Mike and for everyone, just I just want to highlight that we have some investments we're making, and I already spoke about the customer service aspect, but in terms of our outside plant. So, we have right now an HFC, a hybrid network of fiber. That's our main corridors, our backbone. When we get to the neighborhood, it's a fiber coax, a hybrid. We are investing in a fiber to the home product right now as we speak. We've made significant investments already. That is coming to East Fishkill. It's going to be in every single town within our footprint. We've committed to that publicly. Our CEO has made reference to that on investor calls, and we've released press releases. So what that will bring is, as Mike's asking for, is symmetrical service. It will bring up to 1 gig, up to 10 gigs, I believe, to every home is the goal. We're trying to future-proof the network. Now, my understanding is, after speaking to the network design folks, that East Fishkill building, or the build aspect, will begin at, let me just check my notes. I believe it's the beginning of 2020 is the timeline that we're looking at for East Fishkill. So that means we'll be coming to the town looking for, road opening permits to put cabinets in the right of way and have those conversations to build out our fiber plant to upgrade the existing network.
Thank you, John. Mr. Cunningham, who's next?
The next speaker is Allison Durkin.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I'm speaking on behalf of our family here in East Fishkill. We have been Optimum customers for well over 22 years. I've had a lot of interaction with Mr. Dullahan via email. And Mr. Beepin has been instrumental in connecting us to assist us in some of the issues that we've been having in our home. I too am a teacher trying to teach from home alongside my children who are students. Even one home from college during a pandemic. And I do have to say that once our case was elevated, we did receive, obviously, like new boxes. Like, we did have a phenomenal technician come into our home to evaluate the situation that we were having. And, I thought that the customer service at that point was very good. But I think, we really have to speak to that underlying problem in our area of, not receiving the services at which we're being, that we're paying for. We pay for the service delivery, and on any given day, it's not working. Like many of the previous callers, I do have my hotspot on for Verizon so that I don't lose my connection while I'm working from home. Months ago, prior to our upgrades, we were sitting in our vehicles that came with Wi-Fi because we didn't have the access that we needed to have or that we were paying for through Optimum. The technician that came out was, incredibly helpful and, provided upgrades and provided the service, but still left us with the feeling that our home is not wired correctly and or the junction box outside our house is not correct. So I kind of feel like we put a really big Band-Aid on the situation. So it is nice to hear that you do have plans for development. It's also nice to hear that, you do have some customer service things going on, going back, not even as far as 10 years ago, the Cablevision Optimum store had much longer hours. They were able to help problem solve. It wasn't just a place to pay your bill or to get a new remote. It was a place where you could seek information. So that's really not a service that we have access to. And, I also hear my neighbors saying, like, the wait time on these telephone calls, it's a very long time. So hopefully something can be done about that as well. I will say, even since our quote unquote upgrades this past summer, we still have issues with intermittent outages, not as frequent and not as long in duration. We also continue to have pixelation with our most upgraded boxes. So I think it would help our community to know and understand that we are a priority for this company. You are sending us your best technicians, not just to those houses of which we're speaking tonight. It would be nice to, hear from someone that, East Fishkill, we understand there's been a problem. We're going to do what's right by the community, and not just to individuals who are here tonight or who have emailed you. It shouldn't be the squeaky wheel getting the better service. We're all doing our part. We're all paying our, fees. So that's just our little slice of the world. I would like to thank you for the services, once we did connect and try to resolve the problem, but I don't want you to feel that the problems have been resolved. And hearing, neighbors in East Fishkill, some of them are quite emotional and adamant tonight. I understand where they're coming from. I respect where they're coming from, and I hope that, their issues are also resolved. So thank you everyone for your time tonight. This was a great idea to get the community together and the representatives from Altice to hear us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Durkin. Okay, we do have several more wanting to speak. So if I could reiterate, please keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes so we could get everybody to be heard. Who's next, please?
Next up, we have somebody named John. Okay, John, you have to unmute yourself. John, you're muted, but we can't hear you. Mr. Supervisor, I recommend we go on to the next person just for now to keep things moving, and then John can raise his hand again if need be.
All right, how about now?
We can hear you now, John. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for participating in the workshop, and glad to see everyone coming out and wearing their masks, those that are wearing them, and being healthy. And hopefully we can have more of these in the future. A couple of questions. First one is for the attorney, I think, I'm not sure. Prior, in the beginning of the workshop, he mentioned that he was Verizon related and that he would not be participating in the call.
No, that's not the attorney. That was one of the councilmen works for Verizon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is he still available or no?
No, I think he left the building. He'll watch a video of the meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. My question has to do with the actual competition in the town, of which there's none. And I was personally physically available at a town meeting on last year where I asked about the same question about competition. And at that point, the town supervisor, Nick, said that he was going to try to win. I thought, unless I've misunderstood him, he was going to try to incentivize the competition from both Verizon and some other folks. Now, I don't know whatever came about, what came of that, but now I'm hearing one of the presenters from Altice, John in particular, saying that you guys are going to go to fiber in the future. So my question is, why can't there be some sort of workaround, if you will, or a working together with Fios on an incentivized basis so they could also utilize the same fiber that you guys are utilizing just to benefit the residents of the town?
If that's a question for me, I will say, and I obviously can't speak up behalf of Verizon, but they are one of our biggest direct competitors. And I think, unfortunately, the customers don't want to hear that, but a shared network is sort of not how It's sort of contemplated today, not to say who knows what happens in the future, but that is not something that we sort of coordinate on because of the competition aspect. It would have to be a shared cost. We're investing quite a bit for this network. And, the reason we're doing that is to keep our customers and customers who use Fishkill, sort of future-proof into the network and make sure they have the speeds, capacity, and service they need. I just don't see sort of us leasing our portions of our network to a competitor.
Well, I think the gentleman has a very good point. As we all know, with Central Hudson, the power company, they now must, because of deregulation, provide power from other generating facilities, not just from their generators. And they're responsible for the transmission of it. So I think this is an issue that perhaps we could raise with the Public Service Commission and see if they can't help engender this. I think it's a good point, and maybe the model that they've been pushing on the electric utilities should also be pushed into the cable world.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
I'm now running Scott. Okay, Mr. Engelman, once you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
There we go. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. Thanks for being there tonight. I could pretty much echo a lot of things, so I won't waste the time. Main things that I see, the cost, I pay $248 a month. That's a very large price. In there is $11 a month for the cable boxes. We've already talked about that. I completely agree. When you look at that times 12, times the 4 boxes, times the 5 years I've been here, I've paid for the boxes many times over. But regardless of the box price, the overall price of $248 a month just seems outrageous. We have had issues, a lot of what other people have said, certain things freezing up, other things pixelating, issues with Wi-Fi from different spots throughout the house. So we kind of get it all. And then, when you do get service and you're not sure if you're going to be paying for it or not, and, maybe it's a annoyance, but then you're worried about whether you're going to get hit with a service bill because you're just not sure what the problem is yourself. And yeah, if it's your stuff, there's no cost, but like others have said, sometimes they don't find anything and, then they're going to hit you with the bill. So I'm not sure I've got a lot of new things to add to the conversation, but definitely appreciate all the people who've been talking. I think there's a lot of shared problems across the community.
Thank you, sir. Sir Cunningham, who's next?
Next up, we'll allow Victor to speak.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Okay. So my question is, he says they're going to go from fiber to the home, but still the home is still wired coaxial. How does that improve our service? One, at what cost does that new fiber from the pole to the house going to resemble on the customer? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
I could speak from the technical side of that. So when we say we're doing fiber to the home, your coax that's in your house won't be used. We bring fiber right to the back of the equipment.
Okay.
So that wouldn't impact that. As far as the
Okay.
I'll let John take that one.
Okay, that works. Okay.
And the cost aspect, there is no cost borne on the customer aside from the isolated case there would be if you are, as it is would be today, If you're a significant distance from the pole, there's a certain
Right.
distance within a franchise, right? We have to provide service from the drop. If you have a very long driveway, a large property needs underground digging, that sort of thing, then yes, there will be some shared costs involved. But aside from that, there is no additional cost for this service from the construction standpoint.
Okay, and then the next thing was, when I went to the store in Wappinger, my wife and I, we were told that we could upgrade. So our router was giving us some problems. We got the new router, and from time to time, she drops more than normal. She drops calls a lot, especially during her meetings at work. My son is the same thing, and it's basically what everybody else says that they're having issues with. There's a lot of pixelation. Is there anything I can do now to improve that? Because we've had technicians come here, and they told over the phone what to do, and it's still the same thing. The Wi-Fi box switches, the box switches from different networks at times. I have 3 different networks, but it constantly switching. It doesn't like stay put. And there's times at middle of the night, I hear my Amazon thing saying you lost connectivity, just in the middle of the night, where there should be no usage. It's still doing it.
So I would have to get a technician in there to take a look at it. And of course, we have the email addresses there. As far as connectivity in the middle of the night, we do a lot of our maintenance in the middle of the night. So it not saying that's what it is, but if we do take the system down, we do it when there's the least amount of people on the network. Okay. So you might, I do the same thing here at my own home where my boxes are reset for the morning or something. So that could be what's going on, but I can't say 100%.
Okay. All right. Well, and it's just the last thing was with the range. I'm wondering, it's probably a technical question again, the range, and I'll keep it short, I'm sorry. The range from the actual Wi-Fi throughout the house. Because I do have Wi-Fi extenders and I still get less service upstairs, and I do have the extender upstairs as well. So I'm just wondering.
Victor, are you using our airtie extenders, or are you using like a third party, that you bought on your own?
Third party Netgear.
Okay, so we will provide you with extenders. Okay, so if the house needs the extenders, and technicians come out there, we deem that, we will give you up to 3 extenders for the house.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you. You answered my question. Thank you, folks. Thank you, everybody, for doing this.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cunningham, who's next?
At this point, nobody else has raised their hand to speak.
No one else raised their hand, I'm sorry?
That's correct.
Okay. So we do have several, over 40 comments, which I will have placed into the official record of the meeting, and I will send all the comments to our Altice panel for them to respond to. And with that, I would like to offer, anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Yes, sir.
So good evening, gentlemen. And Councilman, I appreciate your comments earlier. I do echo a lot of the concerns that you expressed. So I'm not going to add anything further to that. I just want to point out a few things. I work for an automaker. And so I know a little bit with respect to market sensitivities, pricing, monopolies, as well as price elasticity. So I've worked and lived in 3 different states in the automotive industry. So I know kind of how the pricing is affected by market. And what I've discovered is that when a particular company has a 90% coverage within a specific area, there is always some aspect of price arbitrage, or there is an inelasticity because the consumers have no choice but to pay for that service, since 90% of the market is owned by one company. And I know this across the globe since I work for a global company. So that's my first question is, if one company owns 90% of this market, I find it very, very difficult to believe that no other company would come in here and try to compete. There's obviously other factors involved. Maybe I'm just not aware of it within the industry, but I hope I'm educated enough to know that this does not make sense to me. It's not logical from a competitive standpoint. That's the first thing. The second thing is when it comes to customer service and customer satisfaction, it is paramount because you're going to lose customers in a perfectly competitive environment. Consumers can choose any car they want to go buy, but I would like them to buy the car that my company makes. So what happens is when you pawn off your customers to a very poor customer service or customer service location, you're going to have the situations which I've heard tonight. Long hold times, you cannot understand what they're saying. And because of my ethnicity, I can almost pinpoint the countries where some of these people are you're calling into. So I'm not going to dispel that right now, but I can tell. And traditionally, it's localized to within 3 or 4 markets within a specific area. So I have a hard time listening to them as well. And I've been hung up on. I've basically requested services. And after I request services, I ask them, can I now talk about this other thing? And they hang up on me. That's not fantastic service. And I find it incredibly offensive. And they don't call back because they always ask me my number. They have my account. They don't call me back. So that has happened just up until 2 weeks ago. That was the case. When I first moved to this area, we built a house and we moved in. At that time, my bill for Optimum was $130. It has crept up in those 4 years since we moved here. It topped out at about 180 some dollars, 187. No changes. I didn't add anything to it. I actually returned a box because I didn't want to pay the $10 rental fee for it. I got tired of it. So even after that, the prices kept on creeping up. So I had to remove services to get my bill back down. And now I'm down to about 164. But how did I get there is my concern. Again, if you're not working in a perfectly competitive environment, you can charge whatever the heck you want to all of your customers. And that's kind of how I feel. The service, to be very honest, internet service, it's not perfect. No matter which state you live in, it's always faulty. That's fine. But I just feel as though that there's not a perfect competitive environment here because without perfect competition, just like in the automotive industry, we don't improve. I'm not going to improve the quality on the vehicles that I manufacture if there's nobody else competing against me. And that's exactly how I feel with what's going on with Optimum. So I'm not trying to belittle them, but I would like the market to be more of a free enterprise. And quite honestly, the 2 other cable companies I tried to call, they told me specifically, they do not have the ability to go into Hopewell Junction, East Fishkill, because that's owned by Optimum. If that's a free and open market, then why are they telling me this? So that's why I'm trying to connect the dots here. And so far, I'm not finding the logical connection. If they were afforded the opportunity, and maybe they didn't want to pay for the infrastructure, but Verizon exists here because that's where my cell phone connects to. So they've obviously built cell towers. They have infrastructure here. Why wouldn't they want to develop on that? That's the part that I'm really having a hard time digesting. And my apologies in advance, but I'm just trying to digest the number of comments, be sensible about it, but also be realistic. So Optimum, if they're going to improve, I certainly hope they do. And maybe I'll stay with them. But I would really like to see, can we look to see for a more open type of competitive environment? Because they'll compete on price, they'll compete on quality, just like in the automotive industry. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. And just a comment about competition. Some residents feel that it's the town that prohibits other companies. I'm going to mention this again. It prohibits other companies from coming in here. That is absolutely not the case. We have, like I mentioned before, and the attorney described, we have an open franchise agreement. We do collect franchise fees. Though Optimum does pay the town franchise fees, but it doesn't matter if it's Optimum, it's Verizon, Time Warner. all it is them collecting the fees and paying the town. We would collect the same amount of money if there was 25 different providers in the town. So for the town, it does not matter. We do not care. We want you to have good service at a good price. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, attorney, the rate increases, those are all approved by a Public Service Commission, is that correct?
No, the rates, because of the Federal Communications Act, Congress exempted them from rate regulation. So the rates are free market and it's all handled that way. The Public Service Commission only is involved in the quality of the signal and basic signal quality.
Okay, so thank you for that. So maybe the answer also is to write the Public Service Commission. Maybe they should oversee.
And also, I think you received that confirmatory email from Verizon where they indicated that they're not corporately prepared yet to invest that money for the infrastructure in areas outside of their phone service. I think one thing that's unique is that in other parts of the Hudson Valley, Verizon is the main carrier for telephone service. And in East Fishkill, that was never the case, except for the 10% part. So that's why for Verizon, it's a very heavy lift because they would have to build out a whole system. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. So it's very frustrating for us as well. You know, I feel the calls all the time. So it's if we can have more competition, that's wonderful for our residents. Like you said, it would drive the cost down. That's natural. And trust me, my wife would appreciate it if other competition came in as well. But we do hope that we can have increased service from Optimum. And it was beneficial to hear from our panelists tonight. Thank you for joining us. Was there any other members of the public wish to speak? And were there anybody raise their hands, Mr. Cunningham?
No other hands have been raised.
Okay. So with that, would any of our panelists from Optimum Altice wish to say any closing comments?
Nick, before they do that, allow me to make a couple more comments.
Sure.
And I have to reiterate again that we did have a representatives, I believe 5 years ago, when a contract with the town was signed. A lot of these issues were brought up to their attention. And again, on that night, they said they were going to look into it and better service the community. No such thing happened. With all the respect to the gentleman, to the people that are representing the company tonight, we heard the same type of comments. And I know that your job is to answer our questions, but I feel it's repetitious. So somebody mentioned that the price that the community is charging in East Fishkill is the same in the Bronx. But I believe the service is not the same. We're lacking service in East Fishkill. And for fact, I wanted to buy a piece of equipment from New York City. And the gentleman that wanted to sell it to me said, you have to tell me when you go back home, run a test to see the reception that you have in your house. And I did that with a computer. When I called the gentleman back, he says, how do you watch your TV? Your numbers are so low. So when I contacted the company, they said, well, we could serve you a higher number, but you got to pay for it. So I believe back in the days, I go back a few years when we only had 11 channels or 13 channels on our TVs. And then cable TV came along. And they said to us, we are going to service you and it's going to be also free of commercials. No such thing. You guys make billions of dollars. You bombard our family, our children with tons of commercials. We have no say over that. And that has changed from the day that you enter our homes till today. Now, somebody in the community addressed the fact of the packages. You make it very hard for us to decrease the prices that we want to pay for the service that you deliver. But unless you buy it in a certain way, I cannot get that delivered. Now, if I go to a pizza store and I want a regular pizza, and the order says, no, you can't get it. You got to buy a pizza with all vegetables. And it's going to cost you $30. If I'm the only pizzeria in East Fishkill, that's like the gentleman said, it's an issue to be addressed. But there are probably 50 pizzerias in East Fishkill. So competition is extremely important to really deliver the goods to the community. And when there is no competition, that is exactly what goes on with your company in our communities. You know, sometimes you run special sports events and you charge for that too. I mean, if I want to watch a boxing match, I have to pay maybe, I don't know, between $65 and $100 for that special event. Where do we stop? This year again, I have a local business and I believe my bill for your service is over $300 a month. If you go to a bar or a restaurant, it's even higher than that. I mean, you know, you can't buy a gin and tonic in one bar and they're going to charge you $15 and again go to another place because they don't have the internet. They could sell you that same gin and tonic for $5. It all affects our lives. It affects our pocketbook and people are frustrated. I am frustrated. So please, we thank you for coming on, but I hope that you're not going back to your company and forgetting about the comments that were made.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. And
Yes, one quick
yes, of
comment.
course.
Thank you to the Altice members for joining this call tonight. I do want to make a point that even though it was a handful of residents, your customers that spoke tonight, they represent hundreds, if not thousands of residents that have reached out with complaints. John, I know I've sent you a lot of their comments, their emails, their questions, and that's something that hasn't stopped. And I do hope that you all can reach out to these people that spoke tonight, as well as everyone else that from our town that has an issue. You can see how frustrated you are. Borderline, some people were getting emotional on this call. And that's how severely it's impacted these people's quality of life, especially those that have to work from home, and especially for the kids home today. So please, we're asking for your help. We ask you to do the right thing by your customers and our town. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And before I ask for comments from the panel from Altice, I have a question about municipality bandwidth for HD channels. Right now, it's only provided in standard definition. But as you probably know, they don't sell equipment anymore in standard definition. So can we get bandwidth for our HD channels?
That is not something we're providing right now to municipalities. So we have heard that, as you might imagine, across our footprint, that cry for sort of HD and the equipment complication. But right now, the company is not. We're looking at our brand with constraints and trying to figure out a way to deliver that. And once we start, we will make it ubiquitous. So we will start delivering across municipalities, but we're just not there right now.
Okay, Councilman, did you have any comments?
Basically, the only thing would be to reiterate what everyone's really said. When you go for a new hookup, my daughter had to take 3 days off from work because 3 different crews came out and said the wrong stuff is in the development. When you guys well, you didn't yourselves, put it in because it was one of these customized developments in the town. And then come to find out, the first crew came out and they said, we're union now. We have to have 2 guys to do this job. And they went away. So she took another day off from work. Took 3 days for people to come out and fix the problem, which is 3 days pay. I actually got rid of you guys probably 20 years ago, and I went to DirecTV, who has slowly raised the price. Part of the problem is
there is competition. I don't want anybody to think there isn't competition. There's no other cable TV companies. There is the internet TV, which you can get now, which if you look up is about $60 a month compared to what you have. And if you have a smart TV, they don't charge you per TV. Hulu has a package, which is also internet, which means you'll probably raise the internet fee if you're not close enough to Frontier. I remember when the Yankee network came on and not enough people bought it, and Steinbrenner was getting too much money, not getting enough, so you added to my package, raised my bill by $5, but you put the Yankee network on, you put the Spanish channel on, and you gave me Disney. Now I'm dating myself because that's a long time ago when Disney could actually have all their TVs on channel. It's really, it really is a shame. And I understand that you guys pay and all the professional sports teams get money from you guys, and the Yankee channel gets paid and the ESPN gets paid and everybody gets paid. But that should come out of the commercials and not off the backs of the people that really don't care whether they get any of those channels. I mean, that's all I've really got to say. And I mean, it is a shame. And when I first put cable TV in my house, it took 3.5 months for them to run the cable wire 75 feet down the road so they could hook me up. When I talked to the guys from Cablevision for 6 months when I was building the house, and they dropped the wire off, but they wouldn't run it from my one pole to my second pole so I could even hook into my house. And I went around singing Hakuna Matata because that was the only VCR movie that my kids owned at the time. That's a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We know you're old. So with that, could we?
You're older than I am.
Can we have our panel from Altice wish to say any comments?
Yeah, I would just like to thank you, Supervisor D'Alessandro, and the town board for inviting us here today. And you know, we're listening tonight, and we heard what you have to say and what your constituents and our customers have to say. And we're going to take it back, and we will do our job to correct all of those that spoke and all of those that didn't have a chance to speak, to try and earn your trust back as a company. And I will stay in contact as your liaison, and Samantha will as well, in terms of giving updates on when the fiber project is coming to East Fishkill, so you can sort of prepare for that, and it's not a surprise, and we'll stay in contact. So thank you again.
And I want to thank everybody for inviting us here tonight also as well. Please get the information to John and to, you know, myself. We'll be committed to sending technicians out there to fix the issues that we have. I have come into the area in May is when I started up here. So I'm new to the area, but I've made a lot of changes on the back end with my technicians and what we're doing in the area to, you know, to prioritize some of these issues. So, you know, my commitment tonight is that, you know, we will work diligently with my team. I'll work closely with John, and we'll make sure that we get the service that you're paying for. We'll provide you that proper service going forward. Thank you for having us tonight.
And I'd just like to thank everyone, and also for anyone that joined through the computer that has the chat function open. My email address as well as John's will be in there. So if you are experiencing service issues or you would like someone to take a look at your account, please just send us an email, including your account number or the telephone number or your home address associated, so we can find your information.
Thank you all very much. And like I mentioned before, all comments, chat comments will be answered. We'll send them directly to Altice for them to answer. And again, thank you, John and Ed and Samantha. And, you know, we do have very important business going on in this town. We don't want to have these type of meetings. We want the good service. We want our residents to get what they're paying for. I'm sure you agree that, internet service especially is not a luxury, it's a necessity now. And we take it very seriously. We want our residents to be heard, and I appreciate you all joining us tonight. Thank you. So with that, our next town board meeting is March 25th, 2021. Do I have a motion to close the work session?
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.